Okay, so I'm going to try and address two separate topics in this video. That won't sit there, so I'll have to put that there for now. Okay, so flaws. So you get people often complaining about these tools. It could be a number of things why people are complaining. Now, I've complained about these tools as well because they're not flawless. There are flaws in these tools. But the way that you see me use them, you probably wouldn't say, well, there is no flaws in the way that it works. That's because I'll work around whatever flaw is in this tool. Now, I'll give you a quick example of a flaw. These end clips, they're very tight. These are the version 3, but I still like to put an insert in here, which is a paper clip, just to make sure that rubber is definitely tight. Now, that's a free fix. You don't have to pay for that, so I look at that as a bonus. Paper clips are, you can find a paper clip anywhere you're working, on the ground, in an office. You can even go out and buy yourself a paper clip, but they're virtually cost you nothing. They've never cost me anything in the 10 years of me using liquidators, but that's what I've used. So lots of flaws in this tool for a lot of people because there's lots of flaws in the way that they work. So you get people often say, oh, we wish another company would make a better version of this tool, or have more functionality, or more, we should have more versatility and functions in this tool. Now, don't ever wish for that, because a company wouldn't be so stupid enough to go out and make a more versatile, more complex tool than this, because they already know that most people cannot use these tools. Like, most people around the world won't be able to get any sort of massive use out of this handle. The people on YouTube that use this handle but don't use this channel, they can use it with a load of limitations, but you know, they just use it because it's got they use a few functions on it, but you won't see hardly anybody using the full tool because it limits the way they work, because their way of working, their structure is full of flaws. So if you ironed out all those flaws, then they're going to get great results with this tool. But as you know, window cleaners mentality, as I've talked about it over the last few years, we all know that they're stuck in their ways, their mindsets, everything else is the problem apart from themselves. Right, talking about different mindsets, I'm going to compare a way of working that one guy who designs tools, squeegees, and he has his own techniques that he likes to propagate, and he talks about being efficient, but unfortunately he never mentions the most important word, which I always mention, which is being effective, because there's no point being efficient if you're not effective. And what does effective mean? Well, for me, effective means 0 detail, 0 mistakes. Okay, so I'll give you a demonstration. We're going to work on this window. I'm going to use 2 different size squeegees, and we're going to use squeegees that he doesn't use. So really, we're going to get better results with these squeegees than he would with his own squeegees. So his way of working is being really efficient. One of his techniques is the Z method. Now, straight away, closing out to the side of this window is a problem, because we've got a load of detail in here, because these windows are not very ideal for closing out to the side. We've got 0 detail up here. We've got 0 detail down here because we're using a 0 detail squeegee, but we've got a load of drag marks here. Let me just show you, hopefully you can pick that up. Now he says that's efficient, and he also talks about you use the tool less because you move it less, and he does talk about detailing, but he never mentions the word you have to put effort into detail. You've got to move around. He likes to say, oh, we didn't move very much with there, less labour, but he never mentions that you actually got to move a lot with your tool, your second tool, which is your cleaning up, because you got such bad results with the way that you worked. Right, so we're going to talk about now my method, and it is tool and technique. So we scale down the size, we put the tool in the right place at the right time, and we get 0 detail, 0 mistake on the glass. both methods, we always have the solution on the bottom there, but we're just talking glass. So he's right in saying the other way, sort of way of working, is you've got to use a lot more labour in putting your tool across the glass. But I finished that glass with my tool and technique, so I only have to move once, whereas his method is you move a bit with your squeegee the first time with your big squeegee, and on the second time of your movement you've got to fix all the mistakes that your squeegee and your technique has left behind. By the way, he sells a DVD how to work like this. It's called How to Work Longer, Harder, Slower and Get Less Results. I'm only joking. So let's talk about flaws now, because you know, flaws always happen. So we've got a flaw because we can't go in like this. So like in my previous videos that I talked about, I adapt and evolve because I've got this mindset of always wanting to reduce my work. And if it doesn't work one way, I'll revert to a B method or revert to a C method. Whereas most window cleaners, they only have one method. And that will always, every single time, 100% of the time, mean working longer, harder, slower, getting less results. And I like to go for either a B method or C method. If the tool doesn't work on one particular frame or type of window or rubber seal, I'll resort to another method. Now, basically what that method is, instead of coming up like this, because there's vibrations and problems, I'm going either down or across. I'm never going up. So you're never going to see me dive bomb, because if I dive bomb with this tool on a bad window to work on, then I'm going to get all sorts of problems. So really, forget dive bombing straight away. It's the most awkward technique to get slightly better results than working just with a fanning movement. In fact, just stick to working with a fanning movement with whatever tool you're using, because by the time you finish trying to get all these dive bombing to reduce a little bit less of detailing, you're still going to be working longer, harder, slower. So one of the worst techniques to ever be talked about on YouTube. Now the problem is with window cleaners on YouTube is they've all got their own philosophies, they've all got their own methods, they've all got their own type of tool to work with, and styles and skills, and unfortunately they'll all mean they're going to be working longer, harder, slower, getting less results. In comparison to the information I give using this tool and using this solution method and being versatile and adaptable and getting tool and technique on every single pane of window. So for the last 8 to 10 years, it's always been tool and technique with these types of tools, and it means I get much more work done with much higher quality every single time. And for some window cleaners, they can't stand this information, because all I do is highlight all the other methods, all the other ways, all the tried and tested ways, all the manufacturers out there who design their own tools as well, all the guys that like to modify their existing squeegee channel, but they'll never modify the way that they work. Funny that, isn't it? And all I do is come along and say, do it this way, because there is no quicker, more efficient, more effective way. So I'm not blowing my own trumpet, I'm just saying this is the reality, and this is the mindset that window cleaners have. And unfortunately, nobody has a more efficient, a more effective way of working. Nobody has a better performing tool to use. Even if you modify it, it's not going to be a better performing tool. And focus more on the way that you work, less on modifying your tool. And for some window cleaners, it's best if you don't say anything, because all it does is highlight how ineffective, inefficient it is. Now, going back to the method of doing the Z method, he likes to say that this is a very, let's get this rubber wet because it's very hot and dry here. it's hot and dry, guys, and I don't get any problems with my tooling technique. Why? Because I'm versatile. I use the right soap solution method. I use a saturated washer. I don't have any flaws, and I teach don't have flaws. This is how you avoid flaws, but you have to do things a certain way. And if you don't like it, do it your way, and you're guaranteed to work longer, harder, slower, and get less results every single time. So this method that he talks about is the Z method. He says it's efficient because you do less labour. He forgets the most important word that I like to always incorporate in my videos is being effective. There's no point being efficient if the technique and the skill and the tool that you're using isn't effective. And effective for me means mistakes. If it's got a load of mistakes that need rectifying with this, then it's not effective. This is effective because all I've got to do is put the tool in the right place at the right time once, clean that frame here, move on to the next job, next window, next pane. I'm working less hard, I'm getting much more work done, I'm using more skill, which is a no-no for a lot of window cleaners, but honestly using more skill will help you get more windows cleaned in a more efficient way because you're going to be working more effective. So that's my philosophy, my mindset. It is do exactly the opposite to what everybody else talks about, teaches and does on their videos.